Analytic rigor. The use of the scientific method and effective checklist minimizes errors and omissions. Having those checklists is the thing that minimizes errors, and always referring to those checklists, because sometimes we get a little high off of our own supply, right? And we start thinking, oh no, I don't need to check the checklist because I already know. You value your memory sometimes a little bit too much, so always rely on the checklist. But know that the checklist is not everything. You still have to have someone who's bringing in some of that other tribal knowledge that is important for you guys to be able to evaluate a deal. Determine value apart from price, progress apart from activity, wealth apart from size. It's better to remember the obvious than to grasp the esoteric. Be a business analyst, not a market macro economist or a security analyst. Consider the totality of risk. Look always for potential second order effects and higher level impacts. What are those second order effects? Could those be interest rates? Could those be presidential changes? Could those be war? Could those be inflation? What do those look like? And how might those affect our model? Our first business coach taught us very early on was best case, worst case, and most likely case. Most brand new real estate investors, what case model do you think that they use? The best case on steroids. And they never consider what's the worst case that could happen. You guys have to consider that in your analysis of any deal. And when it comes to commercial real estate investing, what's your worst case scenario? In some cases, a complete loss of all of your capital. That's a little scary, right? So look at the breaking point of your deal. And this goes to his concept of thinking forwards and backwards. And he uses this phrase, invert, always invert. And I'm like, I don't really understand what that means, invert, always invert, until I read this story and got a little bit of his background to understand him a little bit more. So Munger was a military meteorologist during World War II. And he was told, like, your job is to make sure that pilots stay alive. And that was one way of thinking about solving this problem. Let's think about how we can make sure that these people stay alive. But he wanted to think backwards as well, or think in reverse, which is, what are the things that always make pilots die, right? What are the things that always make deals fail? And once he started thinking like that, a whole different world opened up to him, and he was able to look at the things that would always kill them: snow, ice, and fog. And he ignored everything else. Allocation was another one of his principles. Proper allocation of capital is an investor's #1 job. And sometimes we talk about the opportunity cost and the opportunity cost of capital. So your capital could be invested in a CD that's returning 2%, right? Guaranteed. Or your capital could be invested in something that's returning 15%. But do you think you're going to get a guarantee? Probably not, right? Probably not. So remember that the highest and best use of capital is always measured by the next best use, that opportunity cost. Good ideas are rare, and when the odds are greatly in your favor, bet or allocate heavily. When Charlie and Warren were investing in companies, they weren't saying, oh, I'm going to put a couple million here. They were saying, we're putting hundreds of millions of dollars into a deal. And there are only so many companies out there where they can actually do that. So they would just identify what those companies are, and he wouldn't fall in love with any particular investment. What is one of the things that determines our propensity to fall in love with an investment? Questioning. Applying that analytic rigor that we have to apply in order to make sure that it's actually the right deal. Just because it's the first deal or just because it's the only deal, that's like putting on beer goggles at 2 o'clock in the morning and it's just you and some other person at the bar. It's just like, well, I guess this is all that we have tonight. And you pick that one. And obviously that's not a situation where you're necessarily falling in love, but have you guys ever felt that on a deal? And sometimes it's like that's going around in the back of your head. So apply that analytic rigor. In movie making, they often refer to this process as killing your darlings. It's when on the editor's floor, they have to cut out scenes that don't necessarily make sense, or they have to go back and maybe film stuff to make stuff make more sense, right? So kill those darlings. Don't fall in love. Be situation dependent and opportunity driven.
How to choose the contractor? I would say go on your power team, network with the right people, and see how many deals have that contract have helped your network. Review is a must, and not just review online, but the people that have worked with those contractors and how long have they worked with them. Because if you don't choose the right contract, you can lose money like that. Say never pay your contract up front. Click on the link in the comments below and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, and we'll keep give you more information as well. So stay tuned.